Hello everyone and welcome back to Bookmas. I wanted to make sure that I talked about my winter book recommendations very early on in Bookmas, so you guys have a good list of books that you could read in the winter season. And I have a lot of incredible book recommendations for you. We have a lot of different genres that all either take place during the winter or just give off very winter energy, and I feel like you'll know what I mean once we get to those books. I don't want to drag this out any longer, so let's get into the winter book recommendations. The first book that I want to talk about today is Anxious People by Friedrich Bachmann. This is one of my favorite fiction books, but it's also a fiction book that takes place during the winter time. In the story, we're following a bank robber who actually fails to rob the bank and then accidentally takes a bunch of strangers hostage at an open house, like an open apartment, open house type of situation. And every single one of the characters, including the bank robber, are just the quirkiest, most odd and unique people. Like, it's very much a bunch of oddballs trapped in a room. And this story, I can't remember if it's taking place on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. I think it's New Year's Eve, but there are a lot of descriptions about the cold, frigid air, and it just feels very dark while being really well balanced with a lot of light and humorous dialogue. Switching it up a little bit, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is probably my favorite fantasy book to recommend during the winter time because I say this every time, but I wish I knew how wintry this book was before I picked it up. I think I read this in like the spring or the summer, and it's like not my biggest regret, but I'm so sad that I did not read it in like December or January. And in the story, we're following Emily Wilde, and she is working on compiling the most comprehensive encyclopedia of fairies to date. She wants her encyclopedia to have all of the best information out there that there is on the fae. And there's one last species of fae that she needs to go out and study to kind of complete this encyclopedia. And so she has to get on a boat and go to this island in the thick of winter, covered in ice and snow, to go and study the fae. And there's a lot of scenes of her wandering through the snow-covered forest and chopping wood to fill the hearth, and it's so cozy, so wintry. There's also a romance in here that's a bit of a subplot that I really appreciated. I think this one's great. It's also cozy fantasy, not very action-packed, but like, who doesn't love a little bit of cozy during the winter time? Continuing with fantasy, one of my favorite fantasy series of all time is the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. This trilogy takes place in Ravka, and Ravka is being overcome by this giant shadow fold. And this fold is slowly dividing Ravka in half. But people need to travel from one side to the other, and the fold is filled with lots of dark and dangerous creatures. But again, people have to go from one side to the other. And our main character, Elena, is on the journey across the fold when what were they called? It's like a ship of sorts. It's not called a ship, but the vessel that they're on to cross the fold is attacked. And during this attack, Elena realizes that she has powers that she didn't know that she had. These are YA, but they feel a little bit darker and cozier, and the magic system in here is really unique. And I honestly think that winter is the perfect time to pick up these books. I love them so much. Again, you'll start with Shadow and Bone, and then you can continue on to the other two if you like it. And I will say that the series gets better as you go. Continuing with fantasy, I wanted to recommend One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Right next to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, this is like the perfect fantasy series to pick up during the winter time. In this duology, we're following our main character, Elspeth, and her world, her town that she lives in, is slowly being overtaken by this dark mist. And the mist is very dangerous. If you get trapped in the mist or caught in the mist, bad things will happen to you. Elspeth ends up on this journey of trying to rid the city of the mist. And the only way to do that is to unite this deck of 12 magical cards. And these magical cards are scattered all across the city. Some haven't been seen in hundreds of years, and each card has its own unique magical ability. It's just like dark, gothic, fantasy, romantasy, mist, old castles, like all of that, and very dark, cold, bleak descriptions. I picked it up in the fall. It was great in the fall. It would also be fantastic in the winter. And I will say I liked the first book, but I thought the second book was so much better. And the second book was kind of why the whole series was worth it for me. I binged these. I read them back to back, and it was great. If you're looking for some cozy, action-packed, gothic, dark, chilling fantasy, go for this one. It's pretty good. I couldn't not mention Beartown by Friedrich Bachmann in this video. I definitely want to read the next Beartown book. I've only read the first one. I would love to read the second Beartown book this month or just this winter. Honestly, the description of it is very underwhelming, if I'm being completely honest with you. This book takes place in Beartown, and Beartown is far in the north. It's very dark, it's very cold, long winters. And as you might imagine, that climate is very difficult to live in. But the one thing that really brings the community together is ice hockey. Everyone in this small town just absolutely loves ice hockey. And this season, their junior ice hockey team has made it to the semifinals, and there is a chance that they could win. And the entire town really comes together and rallies together over their young hockey team. But as you might imagine, a ton of pressure is being put on these young boys. And at the same time, a tragedy strikes the town of Beartown. And we really watch as this tragedy divides the town. People are forced to take sides, question what they believe in and who they believe. This was a book that the more I read it, the more invested I became, and the winter vibes were immaculate. I read this in the peak of summer, and I did this to myself. I was doing a challenge where I read my entire physical TBR until it got down to 0. And so I had to read Beartown in the summer in order to make that happen. But I have intentionally paused my reading of this series to continue reading it this winter, because again, it gets dark early and there's snow everywhere and it's freezing and they're in their giant parkas, and then they go into the ice hockey arena, and that's also cold. But yeah, Beartown is really great to pick up in the winter. Switching it up a little bit, I wanted to recommend you guys a romance, and that romance is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. This is probably my favorite book of the year so far, tied with Kingdom of Ash. I don't know which one I liked better, but I just absolutely loved this book so much. To me personally, as a reader, I really think of summer and spring as the time to read light, fluffy romances. And if I'm going to recommend a romance in the wintertime, it's going to have a lot more depth to it. It's going to have maybe complex character dynamics. There just needs to be an extra element of something for me to be like, oh, you should read this romance in the winter, or it just feel wintry and cozy, obviously. And this is a book that's just not straightforward romance at all. We have our main character, Georgia, who is living in London, and in London, she has become an expert reader of people. She has studied understanding people's facial expressions and telling when somebody's lying. That's her profession. She ends up getting a call with some bad news about her family, and so she has to fly home back to South Carolina in the United States to deal with this family tragedy, and has to kind of reunite with a lot of her toxic family throughout this whole thing. And when she goes back to South Carolina, she meets our MMC named Sam Penny. I'm not going to say who he is or why they meet, because I feel like that's more fun to figure out as you read the book. But just know that the romance that goes on between Georgia and Sam Penny was one of my favorites that I've ever read, because of how complicated it was. I don't know what it is. When things feel that complicated, they feel real to me. And I love that, and I connected with that a lot. And I also just love that this romance is very genre bending. There's romance, there's fiction, there's a little mystery that pops up. It's just so good. And maybe I've talked about this book the longest out of any book in this video. I love this book. I'm gonna leave you with that. Great romance to pick up any time of year, but I do think it would be fun in the winter. Next, I wanted to talk about Trust by Hernan Diaz. This book, I'm going to say this right now, wasn't my all-time favorite book, but I do feel like there's a lot of people out there who would absolutely love this book. I think it won the Pulitzer. It was either nominated or won the Pulitzer. And I think if you're going to pick this book up, winter is the perfect time to do it. But this book follows our two main characters, Benjamin and Helen Rask. They're married. They're known for being Wall Street tycoons. They have a bunch of money, but everyone kind of wonders how they got it. But then come 1929, this is historical fiction. 1929, we have the infamous stock market crash, and everything kind of goes haywire. People are calling into question where their wealth came from, what's going on now. And this is especially unique because it's not actually one story all the way through. This book is broken up into 4 different stories, not just different perspectives, but the the stories themselves are the same, but they're told in different ways. And I will leave you with that because I didn't know much going into this. And I do feel like that's what makes this so unique. And so the whole concept of this book is who can you trust? Because we have different perspectives, different versions of the same story being told. I really appreciated this. It's very thought-provoking. I think if you're going to pick up trust, you should do it at this time of year. Jumping back into romance, we have a novel love story by Ashley Poston. Now, while Conditions of Will was very layered and very complicated, this is one that I feel like just in theme and in vibe is perfect for the winter, and let me tell you why. We're following our main character Eileen, and she's driving, and all of a sudden her car breaks down. And where does it turn out that she has ended up but inside of her favorite small town romance series? This would be like if I woke up and all of a sudden I was a character in Magnolia Parks or the L.C. Silver Chestnut Spring series. Imagine waking up and being in the town of your favorite book series. And the book series that she loves is incredibly cozy. There's like rain every single afternoon. The characters are very sugar sweet, your classic small town cast of characters. But when she's in this town, there is a man there that she does not recognize. She can't place who he is in the town, and obviously there may or may not be a romance that forms between the two of them. And this one just feels very cozy. There's tea, there's bookstores, there's a cute cat, there's again rain every single afternoon. And to me, that energy and that description is so perfect for the wintertime. And Ashley Poston is just such an amazing writer. And I feel like if you want to feel that cozy winter energy, you are going to feel that in this book, thanks to Ashley Poston and her beautiful writing. I did want to mention a thriller in here. I'm not a huge thriller gal, as you guys know, but I have been consistently trying to read a few thrillers every single year just to kind of, see if anything changes in my own taste, but also to provide some good recommendations for you guys. And the one that I wanted to talk about in this video is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. This is an all-time favorite classic. I feel like so many people love this book. The reviews for this book are through the roof. And I'm going to say it right now. This book is incredibly dark. One of the darkest books that I have ever read, just overall, but also just certain very specific scenes that take place in this psychological thriller were too intense for me. Just if you're someone like me who is sensitive and like kind of afraid, I don't think this one's for you. I feel like that was the most important thing to get across right off the bat. But now that that is out there, let me just tell you real quick what this book is actually about. 40 years ago, Harriet Wenger disappeared and nobody knows why. Nobody knows where she went. Her body has never been discovered. She's never reappeared many years later. And her uncle just cannot find peace in his life until he knows the answer to this mystery of where did Harriet go? Did she die? Did she vanish? Did someone kidnap her? Like what happened? And so he ends up hiring a journalist named Mikael 40 years later again. And he's like, okay, Mikael, I will pay you huge sums of money if you can help me figure out what happened to Harriet. And they work together. Mikael goes and tries all these different paths and avenues to try and figure out where Harriet went. It's a great psychological thriller mystery book, but again, just so dark. And I think of dark, sad books as winter books, and also there are great descriptions of the winter and food and drink and stuff like that in here. So I feel like both thematically and just literally, this is a good book to pick up in the winter. Of course, I wanted to talk about a Taylor Jenkins Reid book in this video, and while most of her books I feel like I have picked up in the summer, one book that I do think would be really enjoyable in the winter is Daisy Jones and the Six. This one is fantastic. You could read it at any time of year, but I feel like the reason that I want to share it with you guys in the winter is because sometimes in the winter you want a book that's just going to absolutely consume you. I want to forget that it's cold outside. I want to wrap myself up in a little blanket in my chair and forget all else but my book. And that's exactly what Daisy Jones and the Six did to me. In this book, we are following this band, Daisy Jones and the Six. They're the most popular, famous, well-known rock band of all time. We look at the history of how they got to this point. You look at Daisy as a rising star in Hollywood. People are starting to notice her and her voice. And then you have this other band, the Six, who are getting really well known and famous. And we're asking, oh, can these two separate creative groups and people come together to create even better music? And there's a lot of tension. There is a lot of drama and interesting character dynamics that go on between Daisy and the band. And it's told in a really unique way as well. This book is written in an interview style. So we have interviews going on for each chapter of different members from the band, reflecting back on this time, which was really different for me. I think when I picked this book up, it was the first time I had ever encountered a book told like that. And so, yeah, I love this book. You could pick it up any time of year, but it's just so consuming. And as someone who's not obsessed with the winter, I need a book like that where I can just like cozy up and forget all else. The next book that I have to tell you guys, I think is the book that I think of when I think of winter book recommendations. I don't know what it is about this one in particular, but it literally is always the first book to come to mind, and that is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This story follows two young college students named Toru and Naoko, and Toru and Naoko both had the same best friend, if that makes sense. And they are brought together because their best friend very tragically passes away. And the whole story is watching these two characters navigate grief very differently. We see as one character really falls into sadness and isolation and separating themselves from the entire world, whereas the other one takes a very different approach. And so really it's a character study on the coping mechanisms that Toru and Naoko have, but we also look as their relationship to each other changes. This takes place, they're both in college. It takes place in, I think, Tokyo. Yeah, it takes place in Tokyo. And I don't think the whole book definitely doesn't take place during the winter, but for me, some of the most iconic and memorable scenes in this book take place when, like, in the location that they're in, it's covered in snow. Like, you have to trudge through snow to get to where you're going. It's a very sad, dark, you probably have noticed there's a bit of a theme in this video. I can't help but associate books like that with the wintertime. Like, I just think of wintertime as like sad, dark, cozy books. And this definitely hits that. This one's definitely more on the sad side, dark, but there are also scenes that are literally in the winter, in the snow. And that's why I think you should pick up this book in the winter. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to talk about The Girl on the Train by Rachel Hawkins. I don't think this was the first thriller that I ever read, but I read this years and years and years ago, which is why I haven't talked about it on my channel super recently, but this was a great book. In this story, we have our main character, Rachel, and she takes the train to work every single day. She takes it to work, she takes it home, and there's this one home that she passes by every single day that she's taken a particular interest in because she can see the couple that lives there every day on the train. And so she observes them every day. She gets kind of emotionally invested in them. She's made up names for them, the guy and the girl that live there. But then she sees something weird happen that doesn't quite fit her story for these people that she's created in her mind. And she ends up getting kind of involved in something that she's in no way connected to. It's a very fun and iconic psychological thriller, and there's something about being inside the mind of someone where their thoughts are like a little bit twisted and it's a little bit morally gray, and you're not sure who to believe, what to believe, if the narrator is reliable or not. And so I think this one would be a perfect thriller to pick up in the wintertime. I know, again, this one's very famous, very popular, very iconic, but I don't really hear people talk about this book anymore, which is exactly why I wanted to take this opportunity to recommend it to you guys, because I don't think we should always be talking about new books. I think there's books from years ago that I've read that would be incredible to pick up in the winter, and this is definitely one of them. Those are all of my winter book recommendations that I think you guys should pick up this winter season. Again, I wanted to get this video up early on in Bookmas because I wanted you guys to have a great list of books to refer to if you're not really sure what to pick up next. I am so glad that you're here. I am so grateful for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you guys can see all of the rest of my Bookmas videos that are coming soon, and I will have my previous videos all in a playlist linked down below. But I think that's it. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in 2 days. Bye!